States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody, for attending. Megan, what's our first agenda item?
So we do have.
We need to do a roll call.
Oh, sorry. Let's do roll call, okay. Malpractice.
It's okay. Mr. Stewart.
Here.
Thank you. Mr. Zimmerman.
Here.
Mr. Fain.
Here.
Ms. Logan.
Here.
Mr. Peterson.
Here.
Mr. Moulter.
Here.
Ms. Stoller.
Here.
Mr. Richards, no. Ms. Jackson. And Mr. Stevenson is not with us. Thank you.
Thank you. So we do have a quorum to conduct tonight's business. I want to welcome our new member. So she came on replacing, who do we replace?
Dawn Lang.
Oh, Dawn Lang, that's right. So she replaced Dawn. So welcome, and welcome to the mayhem which is about to ensue. So what is our first item on the agenda, Megan? Since I don't have that
So
up here in
first we'll
front of
need
me.
to approve the previous minutes.
Okay. Is there, okay,
I
there we
got
go.
it right here.
There we go,
There
perfect.
we go. We've got it here.
Can I have a motion to approve the previous minutes?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion and a second. Second was by Bruce. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, Bill was a yes for that, on approval. All right, so now we're moving on to our public hearings. Item A, drive plan rezone.
Good evening, Megan Vujicic, Director of Planning and Zoning. The first item before you all is a rezone request of .98 acres from R2 residential to C1 commercial with conditions. This property is located on the north side of 116th Street, west of Oleo Road. It's identified on this image in blue. The existing zoning is R2 residential, as I mentioned. So you can see here, that parcel, the subject property is surrounded by PUDC, which is commercial. And then there was a recent rezone that was approved last month, shown in the pink here for another residential property to commercial. The Fishers 2040 plan, the future land use map, does identify this parcel as suburban residential. So this proposed rezone would be not in line with that Fishers 2040 plan. And I think the purpose of that suburban residential designation in the Fishers 2040 plan was really to align with that existing land use. So here's the proposed site plan and architectural elevation that is being brought forward with this rezone. I do just want to highlight that we've met with the neighbors twice. We held 2 neighborhood meetings with the petitioner to discuss this concept plan. There have been some revisions that have been made, and I'm going to run through those. The first is parking. So the request for this residential conversion was really to align with a similar site development as the Moore Dentist office, just to the east of this site. And so the maximum number of parking spaces for that building is 24. And so this has been reduced down to 24 parking spaces for this property. The building area initially was proposed at 12,000 square feet. The dentist office is about 4,500 square feet, and so the petitioner has reduced this down to 6,500 square feet was the smallest that they were willing to go. Lighting on this property should be full cutoff, 0-foot candle light level at the property line, and during off hours, lighting shall be limited to that required for security purposes only. So we really want to make sure that there's no negative impacts to light pollution on the surrounding properties, which the petitioner has agreed to. They've agreed to this being a single occupant building, so it would only be occupied by one tenant. They've also agreed to have the use limited to be office only. So C1 does allow for office uses, but also personal services in a typical case. But in this one, with these conditions, this would only be limited to office. They've also agreed to identify trees to preserve during construction. And so staff would like to work with the petitioner, if this does move forward, to identify the specific trees that are going to be preserved. When you have standards that just say preserve as viable, that's not really anything for us to be able to enforce. And so we really want to work with the petitioner to identify the specific trees that are going to be preserved and make sure that they are preserved during construction. And then site access has been talked about a lot for this property just due to the traffic concerns in this area. A&F Engineering did complete a memo where they reviewed traffic and the site access. Because of the limited number of trips, comparatively for this area, they didn't have any concerns with the site design, so that was from our traffic consultant. Knowing that there still are traffic concerns from the neighbors in this area, the petitioner has agreed to do a pork chop design, if that's something that our engineering department is okay with, to make sure that this is a right in, right out only, so that way no left-hand turns would be able to be made out of this site. We're open to having those conversations. It's not shown here on this concept plan. I'll let the petitioner go over that in a little bit more detail, but just something for you all to be aware of as well. Something that we've discussed a lot is architecture for this property. So most of the residential conversions that we've seen along 116th Street, the architecture has really remained more residential in character. So we've seen that traditional pitched roof. That has been requested for this structure. The petitioner has decided to go ahead and move forward with this more modern looking building, not that traditional residential look. So staff and the neighbors have requested for that to look more residential in character. But this elevation is what's being brought forward tonight. Any other development standards, if this were to be approved, would fall to the C1 zoning district within the Unified Development Ordinance. We have received public comment. Those were provided to you with the staff report. And most of those comments have centered around just additional commercial development in this area and then concerns related to traffic and increased congestion in addition to that architecture. So staff has no recommendation for plan commission. Here are those neighbors that we had public comments from. I'm going to go ahead and pull up these elevations again and turn it over to the petitioner to give you guys an overview of their proposed project.
Thanks, Megan. Petitioner?
Good evening. My name is Ann O'Hara, and I'm the attorney for driving planning. And with me, I have Gary Verducci. Thank you. I left him today. He is one of the managing members for drive planning, as well as I have Jason Schnur, our builder with DieBuild, and also we have Joe Redar for KRM Architecture. And I'm going to ask them to speak to more specifics. As far as I know, there's been some concerns on the actual architecture of the proposed development, and I will let the experts address it. Very briefly, I just want to point out, as you've heard and reiterated from staff, is that drive planning wants to obviously work with the city of Fishers, and in fact has agreed to all the conditions as set out in the staff report as overviewed by Megan. I would also reiterate that this, my client is very agreeable to, particularly in the proposed ordinance as prepared by staff, that certainly we would be agreeable that the development that would be constructed would be consistent with the final development plans and site plan as approved in the final reading in City Council. And I'd also like to point out one other thing. As we look at this building, this is a high quality professional use building for a financial services firm. And I think that is consistent with the other professional services that we see on 116. I think because of the high quality of it, that the value as far as the surrounding, both the commercial and the residential, would not be affected. And while this body does need to take into consideration what the future plan use, the statute does allow you to take a look at what the current uses are and the current structures. So I would ask that you to take that into consideration as you review this proposal. With that, I will ask Jason and Joe to come up and maybe address particularly the architecture. I know there's been much discussion on the pitched roof, so if I can have you both come up and discuss kind of the plans for that and more specifics. Why don't you describe it? So quick.
Sure.
Go ahead and say your name and it for the record, just so we know.
No problem. Joe Reader with KRM Architecture. Yeah, we, as Andy stated, we had several neighborhood meetings where we kind of worked through the process here, and I feel like we have an understanding of what they would like to see, and we understand what DieBuild's intent is, so I think we're working towards that middle ground. As Andy stated, it is a high quality building in terms of the architectural aesthetic, but we are willing to be flexible with some of the view heights and some of the roof lines we spoke to the neighborhood about previously. So we are flexible in that respect.
Jason Schnur with DieBuild. As the co-designer and builder, I'll just reiterate what Joe said. This is in keeping with Drive's planning, other facilities and intentions. around the country. And again, just to reiterate, it's a Class A office space for a Class A part of town along a Class A corridor in order to better take care of the clients in the area in regards to, financial and retirement planning. And again, they want to do everything in their, in their ethos to be a good neighbor and a resource for the Fishers area.
Just to reiterate, again, that my client is agreeable that the final approved development as approved by City Council, certainly that will be the development that is built. So we certainly would be open to entertain any questions.
Any questions for the petitioner?
First question, where were you guys during the city council meeting in May?
As the builder, I will take full responsibility for that. I absolutely got it mixed up on my calendar in conjunction with this meeting here, and it was, quite frankly, it was an honest oversight, and that is absolutely befalls to me as a representative of DI Build and Drive Planning.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for the petitioner? If not, I'll open it up for public hearing. Okay, I'm going to go ahead. Thank you, Ann. I'm going to go ahead and open it up for public hearing. Please come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record. You'll be limited to 3 minutes in terms of your comments. Dr. Berry.
I'll be quick, guys. Thank you. My name is Josh Berry. I'm going to be representing the neighbor right next door, the dental office that you've seen referred to as Moore-Berry Dentistry. I'll bring up some simple points. We built our building 10 years ago. We just want to set some precedence and fairness. I think it's hard for people to understand what's allowed to be built when you buy a property. We were limited to 4,500 square feet, 24 parking spaces, a pitched roof, 1 story. I think sometimes the residents, the residential area, the neighbors can come up and sound like they're anti-business. I am certainly not anti-business. I welcome businesses. I think this is the business itself fits the neighborhood. I don't think the building does. This building overshadows. I quite frankly don't know how that building is going to fit on the property. Ours is 4,500 square foot, and we use every single square foot of that property with the easements, setbacks, and drainage issues that I found when we were looking at this property. I don't know how this building will fit. So I welcome somebody if they can fit into those rules. And going forward, I think we need to set a precedence of what's going to be allowed because the rules are, it's unfair. That's something for us that we agreed to, and I think we had a friendly conversation with the neighbors to come up with our building. We've kept a good, nice property, looks like a home. It fits in with the neighborhood. This building looks massive, and if they can fit it into what we've already established as really the cornerstone going west from our building was supposed to be no more, no bigger. It should only be more residential. That's my points.
Thank you, Josh. Anybody else? Public hearing.
Andy Mattingly, 13487 East 116th Street. I'll reiterate some of the same things that Dr. Berry said. No, totally agree that this property's best use is commercial, but given his size of his property and what it looks like and what was just approved with Magnolia Grove, which also has a residential look, so you would have a business building in between 2 buildings that have a residential look that to me doesn't seem like it fits with what's going to be there. So I suggest that it needs to be taken down in size and moved to look more like the 2 buildings that have already been improved on either side of it. It seems odd to me to approve a building in between that has this very huge commercial look and size to it. So that's my points.
Thanks, Adam.
Hi there, I'm Elizabeth Cook. I live at 13625 East 114th Street. I'd actually like to take a little step back as far as, why how we decide when we're going to switch residential property to commercial property. So I just did a little looking around, and here's a space at 8402 East 116th Street, 5,000 square feet, vacant, empty, open for lease or for sale. And then First Internet Bank, that building has commercial space, vacant, ready for lease or sale, or lease in that case. Nickel Plate Station, 4,000 square feet for lease. The retail pad at Kroger at Allisonville, more space. 9865 East 116th Street, Cumberland Center. More space for lease. 12244 East 116th Street, where the State Farm Insurance office is. So I guess I'm just asking, maybe just take a step back and let's think about, do we need to be flipping these properties to commercial when we already have several thousand square feet of commercial space already available? So that's the first point. Also, the petitioner says that they're flexible on their drawings and on the roof and the building design, but they had time. We have had 2 meetings, and we made it clear that we feel strongly that it should be no more than 4,500 square feet. It should be a pitched roof, residential design. We expressed our concerns about the traffic, and they've had a month or two. I mean, Megan can actually go back and look to see when our first meeting was and our second meeting, but they've had time between then and now to come back with a revision, and they haven't done that. So I don't know how flexible they really are. And then I go back to my original concerns with the traffic. Again, Adam Ellison, age 38, died in a crash in this area. Nathaniel Stewart, age 20, died in a crash in this area. Fishers police say that in 2022, there were 40 accidents, 4 injuries, 35 property damage. There are nearly 6,000 students enrolled in the schools. There's the Geist Park, there's the Super Kroger. I just think before we flip more properties, we need to think about the outcome of doing that. Also, as far as an orphan property, there's a home a few houses down from this property. They've just recently painted all the brick white, black trim, a new beautiful wood fence with lighting. They're very proud of their home that's right along 116th Street. We have neighbors here that live right on 116th Street. They're very proud of their beautiful residential properties. They put a lot of work into them. So I don't think that we should just automatically say, oh, these need to be commercial. So thank you so much. I appreciate your
Thanks,
time.
Elizabeth.
Sir.
Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Laura Villani, 13575 East 114th Street. There's many things here that concern me, but one, this is a franchise-based organization that wants to move in that's based out of Georgia. So they really don't have strong ties to Fishers and if you see what the condition of the property is today, it's just mind-blowing that they're not even paying attention to the property they own right now. I don't really trust that they are going to come up with this new design, which we've asked for. And the other thing they don't realize is they're putting all their parking straight across 116th Street. And again, that is not a transitional look. That is a very commercial, very in-your-face approach. And I don't think that is the flavor or the tenor that we really want to have in this area, in this sector of 116th Street.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Kyle Thompson, 13429 East 116th Street. I'm here to speak against the approval of this proposal. When zoning and architectural requirements were set forth with the initial development of this corner, I assumed that they would be, adhered to in perpetuity for fairness to everyone. And this does not seem to be the case with this current proposal. It's nowhere near where the standards were laid out. And quite frankly, architecturally speaking, this does not fit the neighborhood. With the ongoing development on the east side of Fishers, 116th Street is a main thoroughfare for commuters coming from 69 and other places. Adding commercial development along this thoroughfare only exasperates that traffic issue. The recent approval of Magnolia Salon, which will force U-turns on this busy thoroughfare, will significantly impact our families' ability to leave our driveway. Approving additional development is going to make traffic unbearable. As Ms. Cook said, we've seen fatalities at this corner, and adding more development is only going to exasperate things. So, in closing, I think there are multiple reasons why this proposal should be denied.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
Hi, Tim Mattingly, 13573 East 116th Street. I actually live across the street from Dr. Moore's office and from this property. To me, the scope and size is way too large for this area. To me, it's designed to be in an established commercial corridor. If it was going to go on the 116th and Oleo, it should be inside the mounds. Otherwise, you could look back to 116th and Cumberland. There's land available there where it would fit in. Saxony has multi-story buildings. Again, it would fit in there, and there's land. You could go to 104th and Oleo. All those are in the same area that have established commercial areas. And something of this scope, that's where it should be. I remember when Dr. Bohr and Dr. Berry built their building, they were great. They kept their property up all during construction, unlike Drive, who hasn't, but also they recognize it's a transition property. You know, these are buffer properties between the hard established commercial Kroger all the way back to the residential, and it should be a nice even flow where you have a commercial use, but you have the softening of the residential standards and size. And to me, you know, the current council and administration, the past councils and administrations, you know, you've done a great job of establishing Fishers as a great city, places where people do want to come and invest. We have the luxury to be selective on who we let in and who is beneficial for our community, and I think we should step back and just look at some of these standards and figure out how to address all of these transitional properties, because they're probably not going to be able to stay residential, but there is a way to find users who want to be in our community, want to invest in it, and they're not looking just to make the money off the property. They're making the money by operating there so they can build a smaller footprint of a building and benefit our community. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Jacqueline Thompson, 13429 East 116th Street. I have two major issues with it. Is the size first, and Drive is too large for their 1 acre lot and for the outside the mound area standards. They are proposing 6,500 square feet versus their next door neighbor, Moore, at 4,500 square feet with the same size lot. Why would we allow Drive to be 44% larger than the dentist? You guys just recently approved Magnolia, 7,000 square feet on 2 acres. So with that math, this should at least be half the size of that at 3,500 square feet. And honestly, they've been a pretty sloppy and uncaring neighbor so far. The very large sign that they put up was not permitted. It took many neighbors to call. Thankfully, the city gave a call, and then they put a fence around it. Since they put the fence up, it was before cross-country or track season started. It has not been mowed. It's up to almost 2 feet high, so it's an eyesore, plus the chain link fence. And then Drive Management has insulted neighbors in community meetings, suggesting that the commercial mounds and fences have been there since the wagon train time. So the mounds and fences were created because of the PUD. And the PUD was created with tremendous neighborhood development and support and input from Fishers so that we could have a handle on this area. And there are 4 homes west of here outside of Gray Eagle. I couldn't get all my Gray Eagle swim team moms to come with me, but I know they're not really happy about the development that will be spreading here on 116th Street. So for the record, Moore Dentistry has been the gold standard, has been a wonderful neighbor. And for the record, our neighbors are very pro-business, very pro-growth and entrepreneurship. But if it's done correctly. And I know the lawyer for Drive Planning stated that the building is consistent with other offices in the area, but that is simply not true. And we invite this particular lot to move to a commercial area if it is done in a respectful and consistent manner that fits the area. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I really, really love the standard. It's an A building on an A transportation system, AAA, and that's exactly what we want. But we want an A that looks and feels a little residential and fits the contours of the ground.
And for the record, Chris, you are?
Chris Cook, 13625 East 114th, and in addition, I would say 13501 East 116th, directly across from the Magnolia Salon and the pond. By the way, their neighbor to the immediate west of this is not PUD Commercial, it's PUD Commercial's retention pond, which was put there intentionally as a buffer, as part of the buffering. So it's really a misnomer to say it's surrounded by a PUD commercial zoning, in that you don't explain that that pond and that decorating and that landscaping was all there to soften the end of the commercial, and then we put magnolia outside of that. This is on the inside of that, but it should be soft, much like Moore Berry. I will say AAA, right? I want A too. So I'm going to give you two things. I'm going to give you a picture of the current fence and 18 to 24 inch grass, and a picture of Moore Berry next door. You decide what it ought to look like and who's an A. And I'm going to give you just a map that says Moore Berry and Drive are the exact same lot. Magnolia is twice as big. As Jackie mentioned, I see no purpose in allowing this to be more than 4,500 square feet, or more than 3,500 if you use the Magnolia standard. Last, I will go back to the PUD document on this corner. We don't need to see another 11-minute video. I really appreciated that with the Magnolia proposal. But that 11-minute video was to say there's an immense amount of time and energy from the community, from fishers, from the people, and from the developers inside those mounds to get to a standard that we all agreed to, which was neighborhood commercial. Outside the mound, we've really even softened that more neighborhood, more residential, and that's where we are with Drive. It should be more neighborhood, more residential, and I'll just hand out the pictures and the map for you.
Is that it, Chris? Are you done?
We are happy to have commercial on this property. We believe it is, in fact, an orphaned property, and I miss Mr. Farr greatly, who was my neighbor for 40 years. The Farr family was fantastic. This lot has no purpose without Dallas and Doris Farr. This lot will be a commercial property. We have no conflict with that. Not the proposal that you see in front of you. It has no relationship to our neighborhood. With that, I thank you very much.
Thanks, Chris. Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Donna Bond, 13555 East 114th Street. And basically, I've sent an email, so I think you should all have that. And also, Megan helped me, I think, forward some pictures, current pictures of the before and after. So it was Mr. Farr's home that was taken with a beautiful fall picture, and then what it currently looks like with the chain fence and the unkept property. And all I can say is what everybody else said. It's a great building. It belongs in a commercial park, not on 116th Street, across the street from all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Make sure no one wants to get back up and continue to talk about this topic. Okay, so I'll close the public hearing. Commission members, any questions, comments?
I think there's been a lot of historical work, and then even since I've been on the council, work along 116th Street, just to make sure that commercial development looks and fits into residential. And I don't see that here. I'll be a no.
I'm going to be following the same suit as Todd. I really feel that this building needs to be decreased in size based on what many of the neighbors have said, to match the dental office. And I think that there's issues with traffic in this area, and it definitely needs to be residential. So I will be a no as well.
Anyone on my front table want to make any comments?
Yeah, I just want to state, last month we said this body actually voted against the Magnolia. The majority, we just didn't have enough people to vote for it. I still think that if it's going to be in here, it's got to look more residential, because I'm voting no, but partly because it's still outside of the 1,400 linear feet, I believe, that we had at one point from Oleo Road. That crawl keeps going, and we made promises. I've been on the planning commission, I think, since 2009, and to see the continual variances, the continual changes. I don't know what council will do, because we voted no for that, and they still went for the Magnolia project, which I think is a mistake. But yeah, I think this. I'm sorry, but I know that's not what you all want to hear, but I want the residents here. We made promises. We need to keep them.
Anyone else on our commission? If not, I'll go ahead and make a couple comments. Number one, I like the architecture. I think the architecture is a great piece of work. Not for this location, but it's a great piece of work. And I don't want to look at the architects and say you guys did a poor job, because you didn't. I think there's a lot of places in the city where I could see this fitting in incredibly well. I think it would fit in with the entrepreneurial nature and some of the things we're looking to do around the city, so I don't want to look at beating this up. I, like Kim, have been around here for far too long, probably, okay? And the one thing which I understand is that when I make a commitment to somebody, I'm going to live to that commitment. And I've made commitments to the neighbors that were there. I was involved in that Super Kroger deal. I was involved in the mounding. I was involved in the retention pond. I was against the Magnolia Boulevard. I went beyond the 1,000 feet. Not because it was a bad business that I was accused of that night by 2 or 3 people when I walked out. And I'm not opposed to business at all. What I was opposed to was going back on a word that we made not only at council but at planning commission that said we weren't going to allow that, and we weren't going to allow that creep. I had a meeting with a gentleman who wants to run the business. I think it sounds like a fine business. I like the business. I think it's a good business. I think the model's kind of interesting to me. I think it could be very successful. I, however, remember saying that we need to make my friends across the street happy, because if they come in here unhappy, then I'm not going to be happy for you and approve it. So I am absolutely going to stick to commitments where I was, which was siding with these folks. I think Josh and his partner over at Moore Dentistry have done a fabulous job of that. I think Greg O'Haron's buildings down the road of 116th have done a tremendous job of that. We can continue going up 116th Street and see some of the infill lots that we've had there, very residential in nature with a lot of that peaked roof. I don't disagree with the size. I'm not sure you can get 4,500 square feet and parking on this lot. I really don't see it. That's my other worry. There may be a piece of property next to Hub and Spoke that may be able to fit this building, so maybe we can talk about that, because then you can go right next to that other building, which we approved at PUD committee tonight, that actually was kind of similar in nature to the look, and I think it'd be an awesome thing down towards Hub and Spoke. So that being said, I'll obviously be a no. Is there any other planning commission members that want to make any comments before I call for a motion? Okay, then I'll call for a motion.
I motion to send an unfavorable recommendation to City Council for...
Okay, Kim, there's a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Selena. All those in favor of recommending a no approval to City Council on this, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, Bill, are you opposed? Are you for the... You came in late, Bill, so I want to make sure about that.
Sorry, I was an aye on the motion.
Okay, aye on the motion, so it passes unanimously here. So thank you, and we appreciate that. And I urge the petitioner, let's go back and work with staff and see if we can't bring it in to meet those standards. And if not, there's a bunch of other parcels that I'm sure Megan can show you where I'd love to see the building go, and the business actually as well. So thank you.
No, this is the wrong place for it.
Okay, item B, Flat Fork Creek PUD.
So this next item is for another proposed rezone. So this is for a PUD ordinance that's proposed in southeast Fishers. This is north of 96th Street between Georgia Road and Cynthia Ann. There's actually 2 separate parcels that would be a part of this PUD ordinance, and so those are identified here in the green and the purple. The zoning today is R2 residential. There's also an overlay district that sits on these 2 parcels, which is the Greenway overlay. We had approved that overlay ordinance on any of these larger areas that were undeveloped a few years ago, knowing that there's a lot of amenities in this area, such as Flat Fork Creek Park, the Geist Greenway, we have Bee Camp Creek Trail, Agri Park, the county's Geist Park. We wanted to make sure that any new development going in this area was really well connected to all of those recreational amenities. And so with any new development, we asked that trail systems be installed. So you'll see that on the proposed concept plan. But I just wanted to make clear what that Greenway overlay is, because we haven't seen that much before. The Fishers 2040 plan has 2 designations for this area. A majority of the land is suburban residential, which would be, which calls for about 2 to 4 dwelling units per acre is what that land use classification is. There is a small portion of this site that is on the future land use map as neighborhood service center. And the intent behind that designation was we knew that there were going to be more rooftops going up in this area, and so trying to anticipate some future demand for a neighborhood service center. Where that goes exactly is still to be determined. I don't know if really much thought was put into the exact location of that neighborhood service center, but it was just anticipating that there could be a potential future commercial demand. So here is the proposed concept plan. All of the gray area is single family lots. And so that is a Ryan Homes development. That's what's proposed. And that is very traditional and in line with what we see with all of the neighborhoods in this area. There is a portion of this PUD, and this is a bit unique. It's this orange area down here. This is on the northeast corner of 96th Street and Georgia Road. And what is proposed within this PUD ordinance is that that area would be zoned C2 commercial. So C2 commercial it does allow for office space, but it does allow for retail and restaurants as well. Typically when we see commercial PUDs come forward, they come with a concept plan which lays out where the building's going to be, where the parking's going to be. We just heard a last petition where we had architectural renderings of that building before we were going to zone something from R2 to commercial. I would say that that's typically the case for any PUD for commercial, but particularly for an area that is significantly residential today where we're introducing commercial into, we would want to see a concept plan and a more well thought out idea of what's truly going to go there before we would rezone it to commercial. So I want to make that clear because there's kind of two elements to this PUD, and one of them we're supportive of and we're okay with, which is the Ryan Homes residential development moving forward. But what we would like to see removed from the PUD is that commercial piece. And if the property owner or the petitioner wants to come back at a later date with a PUD ordinance specifically for that commercial area, they can certainly do so. But we'd like to review a concept plan and more details of that before we would determine our support for that development. So I'm going to focus mostly on the residential portion, but I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have about the commercial piece as well. So for the development standards, here's a matrix that shows the R5 residential, which is the base zoning that they're asking for, and then the deviations that they would be deviating from within this PUD ordinance. So any of the standards that are being changed are in red. So they are asking for a reduction in the lot width and the lot frontage, and then they're also asking for a reduction in the front yard setback and the side and rear yard setbacks. Additionally, they would be requesting impervious surface increase because they are going to be smaller lots, an increase in impervious surface area to 60%. Here are the proposed home elevations. These did go to PUD committee just before this meeting tonight, and most of these elevations were approved. There was some comments, so some changes that are going to be made on some of the elevations, but this gives you a general idea of the architecture that's being proposed within this PUD. And this architecture would be incorporated into the ordinance. So any future home, if new models were introduced, they would have to be similar in character to what we see here. We have received public comments in writing for this item, and so I've included those here on the slide. 3 of the remonstrators that we've heard from were opposed to the commercial piece, and then there was a few questions from a property owner that, and I'll just point it out here on the concept, who lives in the outlaw residential property off of Cynthia Ann. So they had some questions about buffering and what that means for his property. So those comments were also provided to you. And then I want to mention, and I gave this to Councilman Peterson before the meeting, that there was a petition that was signed by residents who were opposed to this commercial piece, and I believe is 134 signatures on that petition. And so that was handed to the Plan Commission Vice President to enter into the record, but I just wanted to make that clear. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to the petitioner at this point to give an in-depth overview of what's being proposed. But quickly here's the Georgia Road side with the proposed landscaping and then pedestrian facilities, and then Cynthia Ann Road as well. But Murray Clark with Fager Drinker, I will turn it over to you to discuss this item. Do you want this pulled up or is it pulled?
I don't know, can I get mine? Yeah. Okay.
Mr. President, members of the commission, for the record, I'm Murray Clark. I'm an attorney with Faegre Drinker with offices at 600 East 96th Street, and I represent the petitioner in this PUD matter. With me tonight are Mike Lewis, who's land manager in the Indianapolis division of Ryan Homes. As you may know, Ryan Homes, as Megan mentioned, is a residential developer and is the proposed developer for the residential part of this proposal. Also here tonight is Suri Ardalan, where's Suri? Yeah, right here, who has had some communication, I think, with staff. Suri and her husband own all of this property, or the sellers, if you will, of this property. They own it, my understanding, in a living trust in their names. Mrs. Ardalan may want to speak to the commission, particularly regarding the 4 acres and the Georgia Road parcel that Megan mentioned proposed for neighborhood commercial. You'll hear more about that. Also with me is my colleague from Faegre Drinker, Mark Leach. So indeed, we present to you on behalf of Ryan Homes plans for the Flat Fork PUD, primarily a new primarily residential community comprised of 2 distinct infill parcels along 96th Street in Councilor Peterson's council district. The Georgia Road parcel is approximately 50 acres, 46 of which is single-family detached, for sale residential, and approximately, as Megan mentioned, 4 acres neighborhood commercial, which would be left to the Ardalans to be developed by a third party at a later date. The second parcel along Cynthian Road is approximately 59 acres of entirely single-family detached, for sale residential. The location maps in tab 2 indicate where these 2 parcels are situated. As you can see, there are 2 infill parcels there along 96th Street. Collectively, the 2 neighborhoods are adjacent to 2 primary arterial roadways, the planned Geis Greenway Trail and the Flat Fork Creek Park, and close to other amenities, as was mentioned previously. Tab 3 here is an overall concept plan showing the 2 parcels. So let's start with Georgia Road. The Georgia Road parcel is located at the northeast corner of 96 and Georgia Road. It's comprised, as I mentioned, of approximately 50 acres, 46 acres of which are dedicated to single-family detached residential. So you see along 96th Street at the southern part of this particular parcel, the approximately 4 acres proposed for commercial. As to residential, all residences on this parcel are planned to be ranch homes, single-story homes, largely catering to step-down buyers, perhaps empty nesters. The expected price range for the homes is between $450,000 and $550,000. Approximately 4 acres, as has been mentioned, along 96th Street are earmarked for C2 neighborhood commercial district uses and standards, and would be left for the current property owners, the Ardalans, to be developed at a later date. It's my understanding, however, the Ardalans do not anticipate at the site gas stations or other automotive-related uses. So in tab 4, you would find site plan and other plans, including the landscaping plan, open space plan, and pedestrian plans. Thoughtful consideration has been given to internal trails, paths, and general connectivity in and to this neighborhood, which is blessed with a tremendous off-site amenity opportunity as it is adjacent to the planned Geis Greenway Trail. Ryan Homes will work with the city regarding timing and construction of the trail segment that runs through the Duke Energy power line easement on the east property line or border of the Georgia Road parcel in this proposed development, and to 96th Street. So that is undeveloped at that time, as you know, at the time. We have also included in tab 4 illustrative renderings of homes proposed in this neighborhood. As was mentioned, these were presented to the PUD committee prior to this meeting. Tab 5 in our materials deals with the Cynthian Road parcel, which is located at the northwest corner of 96 and Cynthian Road. It's comprised of approximately 59 acres and is single-family detached, for-sale residential with 124 lots. The neighborhood is planned for entirely two-story homes with an expected price range of $600,000 and up. In tab 5, like the Georgia Road parcel materials, you'll find site plan and other plans, including landscaping, open space, and pedestrian plans. Again, internal trails and paths and general connectivity in and to this neighborhood are critical components of this development, which, again, like Georgia Road, is blessed with a tremendous off-site amenity opportunity, namely the Flat Fork Creek and Flat Fork Creek Park immediately to the east across Cynthian. We are working through how best and safely to establish a pedestrian connection to the park from the neighborhood. And again, we include in these materials illustrative renderings of homes proposed in the neighborhood. So collectively, these two neighborhoods will include a diverse mix of two home collections: single-story detached 2 or 3 car garage homes on slabs and basement lots, and two-story detached 3-car garage homes on slabs and basement lots. All told, Ryan Homes will feature up to 7 unique floor plans with home sizes ranging between 1,600 and 4,000 square feet, with an expected average of about 3,000 square feet. Tabs 6 and 7 of our materials have some rear porch and garage detail. Tab 6 was our proposed ordinance, and there have been some changes to the ordinance since these materials, these presentation materials, were submitted to staff. I think maybe, Megan, you had emailed members of the commission the kind of the latest, greatest ordinance. I would bring to your attention there has been kind of one change. We talked with staff before the meeting, and with respect to the anti-monotony standards in Article 8.2, we have agreed not to change those. We had submitted the plan, the PUD plan you would see, ordinance reduce the number of homes not to be duplicated to 3 lots across the street. The ordinance says 5. We've agreed to go back to 5. So essentially that part of the changes we had proposed to the anti-monotony ordinance have been removed, going back to the original language. And be happy to address maybe other parts of that PUD ordinance, but I think we're in pretty good shape on that ordinance. And I would, as set forth in the staff report, our illustrative materials, including architectural exhibits, concept plans, including open space, internal trail and connectivity networks, landscaping and the like, will be incorporated into the PUD ordinance. Also, as mentioned, the Fisher's 2040 plan calls for suburban residential in this area. Consistent with that plan, the density proposed for this PUD is about 2 units per acre. Finally, I would bring to your attention that the annexation petitions have been filed for both of these parcels. I believe that essentially all surrounding partners have properties have been previously annexed. So with that, Mr. Lewis, Mr. Leach, and I would be happy to address questions Commission members might have, and we'd respectfully request your favorable consideration of this PUD.
Marie, they're gonna offer themselves up as petitioner on the commercial piece? Should I allow them to speak, because this is petitioner time?
Sure, Mr. President.
So if you would like to go ahead and come up and speak to the commercial piece, we'll allow you time here at the petitioner side before I open it up for public hearing.
My name is Maslume Erdogan. I go by Suri. And I just want to thank you that you're letting me talk, because last time I was watching you and I wasn't able to communicate. But I just wanted to let you know that the commercial part of this is in the master plan of the Fisher master plan for that area. We are not asking for it to make it commercial because it is there already. When I negotiated with the Ryan Home, I made sure that every consideration is there for your, for the people that were living in that area. For example, we did not ask for any cut on 96th Street. We're going to use the same cut that Ryan Home has, and then we get entrance from there to this commercial area. So there is not going to be any slowing of the traffic or anything like that. The other thing is that what I'm featuring to bring it in that area is like things that is in need of the area instead of, and everything within walking distance, like a coffee shop, a nail salon, hair salon, and like financial planner. It's not going to be something drastically like a gas station or a car repair shop or anything like that. Anything that is in that area is going to be useful for the neighborhood. A small restaurant and something in that range. The reason I didn't put any plan or drawing together because I'm at the beginning of it. I wanted to know before I put all of those time and effort and then money in that and then get a no answer. I want to have the feeling from the beginning before I spend anything. So I just wanted to see how much support I'm getting. I had a chance to meet our mayor, and he wasn't negative about it. And he said, you need to go and express yourself and tell them what you wanted to do. And then hopefully you get some support. And I'm open for the owner around there to see what they wanted to have it done there and what they wanted to be done, because this is set for commercial already. It is in the master plan already. It's not something that I'm saying that make it commercial because it wasn't there. So I'll appreciate your time and letting me express myself. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions for the petitioner at this point before I open up for the public hearing? I've just got a couple questions, and Murray, they probably go to more of the Ryan Home stuff, since I see, and I'll probably take a little bit of thunder away from Mr. DeReamer back there, but I'm going to go ahead and get the questions out up front so you guys can start to think about these that he's going to bring forward. He is a hard stickler on setbacks, and you guys are looking at reducing the setbacks down to 5 feet, which I understand is a state standard, but have you guys looked at what the lot count you lose if you move that to 10 or say 7 to try to get there? So you may not have that answer today, but maybe by the time you get to council, you'll have that. One of the other items that is very, at the forefront for Brad is the fact that the rear setbacks cause a lot of work that goes to our BZA. And what I mean by that is if they become too close, you can't put a deck or a porch or a patio, small things out in back. We need to understand that the setbacks still are going to allow some of that to go on there in the houses. So we need to have answers for that as you probably get the council meeting. And Brad, I still probably gave you enough to talk about, but at least I'll get those two out on the table right now for you guys to at least start to think about. And you may not have to have the answer today, but when we bring this back to council, certainly you'll have that up in the forefront, because I know Brad's going to bring it up here in a minute, and probably a couple other things that I missed, but that's okay. So those are my two comments. I'm going to go ahead and open it up for public hearing for members of the public. So anyone wishing to come speak, please state your name and address for the record. Councilman DeReamer.
Todd, the extra copies are for staff, so that they have it. Good evening. Brad DeReamer, Fisher City Councilman, and I live at 13142 Ophir Trail, Del Webb in Britton Falls. Thank you, Pete, for doing my presentation. I don't need to do much more. If you would look at page 3 of what I handed out to you, and I apologize to the public, I didn't do a PowerPoint to put up. The comparison they used is an R5. I'm not sure why. It's zoned R2. So why don't you compare it to R2? I have no idea why they compared it to R5. And you can see, comparing it to R2, the lot width is 40 feet reduced. The lot width of the building line, 48 feet. Front local street, 5 feet, side setback, 5 feet, rear, 15 feet, and then going from 35% to 60% impervious. The neighborhood around this, did everybody drive the neighborhood so that you know what you're looking at? I hope you all have. It's a beautiful neighborhood, and they're 20 feet or more between the homes, nice rear backyards, and now we're going to come in and bring this thing down. Doesn't make much sense. The sheet before it, or the other one I think I had in there, was Fisher's, existing ordinance. Where's our zoning is ER, R1, R2, 3, 4, and 5. I've been on the city council for 8 years, and we've never had a developer come in and do what we have zoning ordinances for. They all come in with a PUD to reduce it so they can increase their profit. And it doesn't make much sense to me for the last 8 years. The next thing I'd like to show you, proof of why 5 feet doesn't work. The next page has over 95. This was done in July of 2021 in Britton Falls subdivision. We, in Britton Falls, have a 5-foot side setback. And I just sent out an email to everybody, are you having problems with your 5-foot setback? And 95 people responded, and you know that's a lot less than is out there, with problems with the 5-foot side setbacks. Drainage. If you look at the next few pages, you can see what it looks like in Britton Falls with 5-foot side setbacks. When you go to try to mow it, you ruin the grass, or the grass doesn't grow. It stays wet for a week after it rains. So those are some real pictures. They're not made up. They're real pictures. And the other problem it's caused with 5 foot, if you don't have the sun hitting the side of your home, mold grows. And these people are paying $350 upwards every year to clean the mold off of their house because at 5-foot side setbacks, the sun can't get to it to keep the sides clean. So those are some of the proof of why 5-foot side setbacks do not work in Fishers. It's been a tremendous problem in Britton Falls, and I feel sorry for the people that have to keep paying to maintain their homes for the rest of the lives that they live there. The other problem that Pete did mention, the 20-foot setback, in Britton Falls, the home's set at the 20-foot setback line. Especially for us, we're older, we spend time on our patio. You can't build a patio. And for years, as Pete knows, over 50% of the BZA, every month for years, was one subdivision, Britton Falls, asking for a variance so they could build a patio or a deck or an awning or screened-in porch or a year-round room. Got ridiculous. So that's another problem where we need to make sure there's enough rear yard that people can add a patio or something else to the rear of the yard. And with a 20-foot setback, it's not going to happen. So I appreciate your time. We're elected and you're appointed to protect the residents of Fishers, not the developers. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Rod. Anyone else like to come up and speak?
Good afternoon. No way I'm following those data points, but I'll give it my best. My name's Scott Wallace. I live at 9858 Copper Saddle Bend in Belmont Place, which is the adjacent property to the Georgia Street PUD. Thank you, Commissioner Peterson, council members, for this forum. I gotta tell you, this is really cool. Two issues that I've got, or that we collectively might have, is one, the two properties seem to be lumped in together, and I read the PUD packet front to back, and I'm still trying to narrow in on the square foot and the average cost per square foot of what would be offered on each of the elements. I'd be lying if I said that the single-story home development that would be adjacent to Belmont Place isn't a concern. Lowering property value, maybe, maybe not. The numbers I'm trying to calculate in my head just don't make sense. If we're looking at 450 to 525 for these particular properties at an average square foot of 1,700 to 2,500 square feet, that's on average of about $260 per square foot. I've looked at the fleet of Ryan Homes, and by the way, quality product Ryan Homes. No issue whatsoever. $10 billion company, 384 Fortune 500. We know they know what they're doing. Our concern is on the size of the lots at 0.17, that's a fifth of an acre. where they're butting up to properties that have close to a quarter or a third of an acre, and we're a little concerned on that. The traffic property in Ms. Rosalind, Arden, fantastic, love the passion. You know, no real concern on the commercial property. My counterparts probably do. I like it. I think it's kind of a cool idea. But the transparency that we're getting on the Georgia Street property, I've got some concerns on in terms of the math. They abut against properties. In the last 3 years, only 2 of the 45 homes adjacent to Belmont Place that were sold were less than 3,000 square feet. We're talking about putting in 80 homes that are 2,500 square feet and less at a price point that I don't know if they can command that in the market. In fact, I looked at the fleet of Ryan Homes. I've yet to see a house that was sold for over $250 per square foot. The immediate concern is we deflate the pricing down just to move product, and so we have a high quantity coming in. Another concern, which I believe these guys have addressed, is can companies like American Homes come in and then rent the property back? I don't believe that to be the case. The folks over at Ryan, Mark, and James, or Josh, were very good at the early May 5th meeting, very transparent. I'd just like a little bit more clarity on the size of homes that they build, the flexibility or fungibility that they're willing to accept on the small range, so we can continue with the median price per square foot that we have in the adjacent neighborhood. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to come up?
Well, my name's Don Stewart. I live at 10099 Cynthia Ann. I'm on that little square in the corner that they're going to go around. I want to thank Pete and Megan for their time and conversation earlier. And also, with the new, because it is a changed layout of the subdivision, some of my concerns have been addressed there. There's a little more buffer around my property. I still have a concern now. When I talked with Mike, he wasn't really sure if any utilities would in fact go through my front yard. But when that becomes known, some heads up on it, some discussion. Curious about how long it would be tore up and that type of thing. It doesn't look like, I had a concern about headlights and things with the original street plan. The way it is now on the south side, I'm not sure that's a concern for me at all. On the north side, in that vacant area, there still is Frida Lane that comes down and aims at us. People park in there, and I'm not sure what they're doing, but, you know, with their headlights on and whatnot. So having some kind of trees or foliage to somewhat diminish that would be good if that's in fact what happens, if it ends up being just a green space. So, that's really, I just wanted to voice that, and thank you all for your earlier time.
Thanks, sir. Anyone else?
John Capella, 9746 Copper Saddle Bend. I live in Belmont Place. The way you describe things, everybody in my neighborhood on my street basically feels the same way that you described. 2 neighborhoods of homes, okay, fine. The only thing I wanted to mention is that 4-acre neighborhood commercial thing. That's what the buzz in the neighborhood is. I listened to what you had to say. I understand. The thing is, without anything concrete, without drawings and things like that, it's hard to be supportive. On the contrary, where I live, we're all apprehensive, very apprehensive. I don't know of anybody that wants a restaurant or anything like that. And it's just hard to say, hey, let's go for that when we don't really know what we're going for. It's just the 4 acres. I understand the neighborhoods, the Ryan Homes, it's fine. And I just wanted to make that point, okay?
Thanks, sir. Anyone else?
Donna Hunley, 15055 Canner Chase Crossing. I too live in Belmont Place, which is right across the street from that. I have no problem with the residential, but the commercial surrounded with homes, nice homes all the way around there. And we're like within a mile of anything that we could have. I mean, Fortville has all kinds of options. I mean, we're not that far from any businesses, so I don't see the need to put more commercial right there. And the other big problem is the entrance to it, I understand, will not be off 96th Street. It'll be directly across from the south entrance to Belmont Place. So we're going to have 96th Street and Georgia already, the traffic is horrible already. So you're going to have all those commercial property people coming in through that subdivision across from ours. And that's just going to be a big problem. I just can't imagine why anybody would want to put commercial right in the middle of all those homes.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening.
Anyone else?
Board, just want to say thank you for touching on this. Zach Miskwick, 10023 Horse Range Court, Belmont Place as well. Pete, thank you. Good to see you. Just in opposed to the commercial space as well. My house backs up to that property. Currently, right now, I just got text that there's a massive accident at 96 at Georgia. Currently, infrastructure, in my opinion, doesn't even support the number of roofs that are going up currently, let alone a commercial space or the current proposed PUD. So I think that's forefront of something that needs to be concerned and thought through. But not opposed, totally understand that more roofs will be going up, but my concern is the commercial, and it would potentially just feel not needed in that space. Piggybacking on Donna's point, where it's less than a mile on Oleo, has everything to offer, as well as Fortville, that's also building. And soon to McCordsville is going to have a bunch of stuff there as well. So I'm not sure if that's quite necessary at that location. So that's it. Thanks so much.
Thanks for representing my HSC hockey group too. Anyone else?
Hi, Mike Hoffman, 9844 Copper Saddle Bend, Belmont Place. Thank you for the time. I am very much against the commercial zoning. In fact, I've not heard a single neighbor ever ask for a salon or coffee shop, but they have asked for green space. They've asked for more green space. So why not turn that into a pond just like Belmont Place right next door? It's got a very good substrate, an example for it. And for all the points mentioned previous to mine, I would be against that commercial space. As far as the residential, Ryan Homes, I have no problems with having a residential neighborhood there. If you look in the last 3 years, the Steeplechase subdivision just to the side, average square foot for those homes sold, 3,600 square feet. Belmont Place, 5,000 square feet. I'm worried that what they're going to do by reducing lot sizes is they're going to jam 1,900 square foot, very small houses in that area, and it's not aesthetically going to fit and will likely reduce the overall value of residential properties near that area. It'd be great if Ryan Homes, per the recommendation in their proposal, they recommend to go to look at Turnberry Estates, which we did. The 4 ranches there, very nice, very different from what they have in the proposal. It'd be great if they brought those ranches to that Georgia street. I think that would be an excellent addition to the area. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening. My name is Eugene Johnson, 15020 Cantrell Chase Crossing in Belmont Place as well. A lot of my neighbors have already expressed my concerns. I take a look at our neighborhoods around there, and the big issue I have is not as much, again, with the homes. I don't think the homes are the issue, some of the construction and some of the renderings of the home, that's others have spoken on that. But if you look at a couple of areas next to Belmont Place, and I'll tell you what I hear, and others may concur with me. So if you take a look at the strip of Florida Road, Georgia, between 104th and 96th. That's a 3/4 of a mile strip. And I don't know who drives the car at night, but every night you hear somebody revving up like it is a drag race there. On top of the cars that you have coming in from 96th and Oleo, going, I think the next stop sign after that is Cynthia Ann. So at night, sun goes down, and whoever has a muscle car or muscle cars, you hear that zoom, zoom, zoom going up and down those 2 roads. Now you add another commercial aspect to this, so people coming from one commercial area, you have a 96 and Oleo, you have other commercial, again, that's been mentioned in Fortville. How much more traffic are we going to add in that area on top of adding the homes and the residential and the families and the kids riding bicycles and the people looking to cross the street, even with the with the commercial development? How are people going to get there when it has this increased traffic and people who don't drive the speed limit on that at all? I think the speed limit in that area, even for 45, 55 is what I believe, give or take off the top of my head. but particularly that area between 96th in Georgia and 104th in Georgia becomes a drag strip. Another concern is looking to add these homes, right, especially right at that corner at 104th in Georgia. Trying to make a left-hand or a right-hand turn there is a nightmare. And I don't know about anybody else, but you come very close to getting your car wrecked by a dump truck, by a Class B truck, so somebody's hauling materials, a landscape truck. There's barely enough room to navigate there with the current residential homes that are in Belmont Place and other subdivisions around there. So again, not an issue with adding the residential component, but the commercial is, I think, a little bit more than we all can accept, especially with no concept of what that may be, and maybe not just now, but what if it's sold and then somebody else decides to sell it and they want to make it a gas station or they want to make it an auto shop. We just are concerned for the future of our neighborhood. So appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, Tim Cullen, 9847 Gallup Lane. I live in the reserve at Steeplechase. I see Belmont. I wish more people came from my neighborhood. Not against home builders, not against property owners, let them do what they want. This area, Brad, totally agree on everything you said. It seems like when I moved to Fishers in '96, these developers came in and they built some nice neighborhoods with some character to them. Now it seems like it's, you just have a bunch of straight roads, you're cramming as many houses as you can behind each other or anything like that. As I look at the pictures that they proposed on both sides, I'm more concerned, because I live to the west, I'm concerned about the ranch homes. But if you look in the neighborhoods, the streets are just long. We constantly have neighbors complaining for Gallup Lane speeding. So when you have those, unless you're gonna have the city put in a bunch of stop signs, I see that as a problem. I would like to see the commercial not be there and use that property to expand the lot sizes so they have, you know, larger setbacks, things like that. One thing that I am concerned about is 96th Street. Traffic is getting horrendous now. These are the last two properties on Fisher's side to develop. Hancock County is going to explode from McCord Point to Cynthia Ann Road. I think if you look what they proposed, they have approximately, there's going to be 500 homes built there. So this, I would like the city that, what is their plan between Hancock and Hamilton to expand 96th Street? Otherwise, I think we're going to see more wrecks and things like that. So I know there's a roundabout proposed, I think, Pete, you had talked about at Georgia and 96th, but, you know, when's that going to happen? So anyhow, that's pretty much what I have to say. So thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Kyle Theobald, 10041 Horse Branch Court. I actually back up to Georgia Road, adjacent to the property. So my first concern with the commercial property is that they came to this meeting without an architectural concept plan, which is nearly unheard of. There are also no commercial properties bordering or within probably a half mile or mile from this. And the plan with the property is undetermined. I think someone said, what if they sell it 5 years down the road? Next thing you know, there's a auto body shop or something there producing noise, pollution, too much traffic sharing the entrance with the same neighborhood. And I don't even know if I've ever seen an adjacent entrance with a neighborhood myself. But so I thought that was kind of odd. As far as the neighborhood PUD proposal goes, I'm open to the idea of having houses there, but agree with the lot setbacks and putting houses on, 1/5 acre lots. I think as long as their development standards match surrounding areas, you know, that's obviously fine. They were suggesting increasing impervious surface areas, reduction in lot sizes, and homes being built on slabs, which are all subpar to nearly every house within probably a 2 or 3 mile radius of there. So I think that is, you know, not even comparable. And, you know, long story short, as long as the standards match the surrounding area, I'm open to that. It just needs to fit in instead of, you know, a very low quality, small lot type of development. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thought I saw somebody trying to move before, so one last shot before I close the public hearing. Going once, twice, 3 times. I'll close the public hearing. Does anyone on the commission have any questions for the petitioner or comments?
Comments. Number one, pretty much against commercial.
Well, hang on, Todd, really
Yeah,
quick.
go
I
ahead.
apologize. I did want to point out, I think Megan mentioned this earlier. When I walked in, Megan handed me a petition here that was signed by 138. Does that sound right, Megan? Trying to find the number on here. I think it's 138 who opposed the commercial property in the general area there. So I want to make sure I got that number.
Yep. So pretty much opposed to any commercial right there. Not having a plan for the commercial makes it even more so, where I don't understand not having a plan. I can't approve something that I have no clue what could possibly go in there. Number two is this has really anything to do with specific development. This is more on the city side. I won't be supportive of any residential development there of any substantial amount of rooftops unless Georgia Road is addressed. I feel like this is, as I was actually going door to door the other day, had nothing to do with this, just meeting some residents, and actually knocked on the door of a gentleman that lives in this neighborhood, just west there, who's a bus driver for the schools. And he says that it's just virtually impossible to get up and down Georgia Road, and I feel like we're doing a disservice to the residents, safety-wise. So this really has nothing to do with Ryan Homes. Has nothing to, I know this is not a shot at them whatsoever. This would be any developer that comes along with any more projects with regard to that. I think that's more of a city issue. So whether the county or the city, with regard to Georgia Road, would have precedent over this and responsibility. I think that's something we need to take serious consideration with regard to moving forward with anything. So I'll be a no on this project.
Anyone else?
Yes, with any type of commercial development there, I will be a hard no. I even if it comes back with a project plan, I will still be a hard no. I do not believe that this is the right place for commercial. And I expressed that when the project was first introduced to me, that I just did not want commercial in this area. I've heard from many of the residents here tonight, but also that have reached out to me that they do not want commercial in this area. As far as the housing, I would like to see the developer to work with the neighbors to come up with a development there that fits more with this area. And then I would also like to see some traffic issues. I've been hearing a lot. I mean, you can't get much my district is the exact opposite of this. I am as furthest away from this as what I can, so I use Google Maps a lot. But I have heard numerous complaints, as Councilor Zimmerman has, about Georgia Road. And I would like to see a little bit better plan of the traffic that we have in this area, especially when people are getting up and saying, yeah, I just got a text that there's a wreck in the area. I mean, I think that speaks loudly to me. So I will be a hard no on this, especially if it comes back with commercial.
Thanks, Elaine. Anyone in the front? Can you turn on your mic? Help. There you go, Bruce.
question for the petitioners. Do you know the square footage of the ranch homes?
Thought it was 1,700 or 2,500.
Yes, Mike Lewis, land manager for Ryan Homes. We have 4 different floor plans for the ranch homes, and they range in size from 1,566 base square feet up to 2,239 base square feet.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And just a comment, I think it's, I know that there have been some comments about ranch homes. There are a disturbingly small amount of ranch homes available in Fishers, and I just am concerned about there being less of those. As far as accessibility wise, my family had a really difficult time finding a ranch home in Fishers, so I am concerned a little bit about neighborhoods not having any ranch homes at all. So that's my comment.
Thank you. Anyone else? Front? Bill, I don't know if you want to make any comments. I hated to exclude you before, but I don't see you sitting in front of me, so I'll ask you now. Do you have any comments, Bill?
No, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So I'll make a couple comments. I am the city council person in this district. I live on the corner of Cynthia Ann and 104th. So I travel down Georgia Road, Cynthia Ann, 96th, multiple times per day. Now, we just resurfaced Georgia Road. I saw that, so that was a help. Okay, that's number one. But let me deal with the first piece first. I'm a no on the commercial. You and I have had a conversation on the phone. I said I was a no. I'm a consistent no. We've got commercial corridors down on Oleo Road. That's where that belongs. Doesn't belong in that particular area. As it relates to Brad's comments are getting some resonation throughout the community now. So I'm going to urge the petitioner to go back and let's take a look at some of those setbacks and things just so we have some answers as we go forward. I don't want to kill the project as it is because it's going to be homes. That's what's going to end up going there, right? We just want to make sure they're quality homes. I think I don't disagree with what anybody said on Ryan Homes. I think you guys build a fabulous product, and I liked all the products we had. I just looked at them on PUD, so it's not there. But let's take a look at some of the setback things, and let's see what we can work out. I would like to see, Murray, that you talk with the landowners over there and pull that piece into the residential. And that's going to make it a lot easier because in my mind, I'm never going to approve a piece of commercial there as long as I sit here. And since I've got one more term and no one's running against me, I think I'll be okay for the next term. So you're going to get me whether you like me or not for another 5 years or so. So in addressing some of the other concerns, so if we do a piece of commercial and we zone it, there's a number of different commercials that happen. C1, C2, C3, there's all specific uses there. So if you designate a C1, and help me out here, Megan, if I state this incorrectly, you have specific uses that can go there and then specific uses that can't go there. So a gas station and an auto repair shop are never going to be where like a C1 use is, right? Or am I getting it wrong? Right? It has to be specifically used for that. So even if they were to sell it, it's not going to turn into that unless they come back and ask for a rezone. That's number one. I'm still not going to vote for the commercial piece anyways. I just want to put that out there. As it relates to the roads, I have been working with the city and working with staff. I work for an architecture engineering firm who does everything municipal, roads, bridges, etc. I understand the issues that we face in getting that done. Fishers has always gone after a lot of public safety grant money to go get roads done. It's normally a 75 to 80% federal dollar match, which means we, the taxpayers, are only paying 30 or 25% when we try to do those things, and we try to do them as often as we can. We have gotten many of those grants around here. I have been working on trying to get some of those done with Jason Taylor at the corner of 96 and Georgia Road, 96 and Cynthia Ann, 104th and Georgia Road. I finally got a four-way stop at Cynthia Ann and 104th in Connecticut where it runs in there. That didn't used to be a four-way stop. It's a four-way stop. I want all those to be roundabouts. Roundabouts are not cheap. They are very expensive to build. We got to get right away. We got to get utilities moved. But so it takes grant money. We are working on it. I can tell you that right now. I can't make Georgia Road any more crooked than it is. It's a straight road. It's going to be a straight road. Welcome to the Midwest. We do things here in grids. Okay? I'm just hoping it's not my kid drag racing down that road. So I hopeful it's not him. So I think as we look at this whole project as it sits, I think there's some work to be done for you guys when you get back to council. I'm not going to stand in the way of it. I will stand in the way of the commercial piece as we move forward. if someone wants to go ahead and make a motion, I will entertain a motion. Well, we've already closed the public hearing, ma'am, so from the standpoint, the petitioner has a right to speak in the front end, and then at the end, if there's questions for you, then we offer you questions, but at this point, you've been given your allocation to speak, so I'm going to say no. So at this point, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to send an unfavorable recommendation to council.
So we have a motion and a second, so I don't know if it's going to be easier with Bill on the phone, because I think we need to do a roll call with Bill on the phone.
And I just want to, I guess for clarification, that would be an unfavorable recommendation for the entire proposed PUD ordinance as it sits today. I guess there's a couple options here, right? That you could you can send your recommendation tonight to City Council, or you could make a recommendation to have continue it a month and make some revisions and come back to you all again with another proposal before it goes to City Council.
I would be open to continuing it if that is what the petitioner desires, to come back with another plan for next month. Okay, then I motion to continue this to next month.
And just for clarification, maybe the petitioner can get up and talk about what revisions, based on what you've heard tonight, we can expect to see next month.
Are these separate PUDs or are they one PUD?
This is one PUD.
Okay, one PUD, okay. Just want to make sure of that.
Just what you're going to look at and what we can expect to see.
Murray? Sure.
Well, first of all, I think we need to sit down with the property owners, discuss and discuss what we've heard, assess. So there's a commercial piece. I agree with you, Counselor, this is going to be residential. Ryan Homes has great projects. There's a market for the ranch homes and all that, but clearly we're being asked to go back and take a look at at least assess the setbacks and the size of the lots and so forth. So we'll take a look at that, certainly.
Yeah, I think in terms of, the continuance, as you look at that, and maybe if you hadn't been given a copy of Brad's proposal, we'll get you one, Murray, so you can look at that so you can compare, because you're going to understand where his position is going to be on council when you get there. And certainly I hear some echoing from the neighborhoods on what that's going to be. And maybe you can meet it, maybe you can't. It's up to you guys. That's what you can. I'm not suggesting that you have to do everything there, but at least you understand what Brad is saying, which he's going to be pretty adamant about at council, and whether it can be done or can't be done, right? I don't think the houses are a problem, which we're looking at, quite frankly. Building costs have just skyrocketed, people. I mean, what people are paying for houses today, I cringe at when I bought mine. And I'm actually in a ranch home over at Steeplechase. I'm the guy who bought the ranch house, the small one in the neighborhood, because I downsized. But anyway, so those are the items that I want to take a look at. But if we're going to consider anything, I want to make sure that my commission is all on board, that if we're going to consider this, we want to consider it without the commercial piece. Is that a fair assessment for the commission, or?
Well, I would say yes. I'm sorry, Bill, go ahead.
Bill said yes.
Okay. I would say yes,
I said yes.
however, Bill, do you need, please talk. I don't want to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
No, I was finished. Go ahead, Tom.
Okay. So I just want to make sure I'm crystal clear with this. I am not against Ryan Homes. I am not against the project in and of itself. I'm against the commercial, okay? But as a city official, so separate, if we can, we have to, in my mind, I have to separate the two, okay? From the city perspective and our current residents versus a projected, that, yeah, we all agree this is going to be residential. I'm not fighting that. I'm not disagreeing with that. That is absolutely what needs to go here. I'm not against Ryan Homes being the one that is there. I believe, though, there's timing to everything, and we've got to make sure there is a plan for Georgia Road. And I just, I've heard this before when I've approved development out east here that, well, we'll get to that. We're going to get to that. Well, we need to make a plan because there's a safety issue at stake here, and everybody in the world wants to come to Fishers. This is not something where we're trying to incentivize developers to come to Fishers. I mean, they want to be here, and rightfully so. So I hope I'm being heard, that I'm not against the development, but I am against the timing unless we have some sort of plan in place to help, maybe in the midst of this development, in the midst of the construction, there's a way to alleviate that part of Georgia Road. Don't know that the funds are there for that right now, but I'm just telling you where I stand. So as much, I'm fine to continue it, I'm fine to move along with the process, but I'm at the end of the day, if we don't have a plan when we get to council, then my vote at council is going to be no, simply because if there is no plan, I'm concerned about the safety.
I get what you're saying.
So that's my.
I'll
that's
get
my-
Jason to come in there and speak to the road plan, which we have, because he's gonna know what we're talking about. So for direction moving forward to the petitioner, so they understand this, right? I think you're looking at that, at least the commission understands that this is a residential piece of ground, right? That's what's gonna end up going there. Working a little bit with some of the current standards that we have in terms of setbacks, et cetera, to get maybe closer to that, or as close as you can. And then elimination of the commercial piece is what we're looking for in the continuance. Is that a fair assessment from all? Okay, so is that fair?
Yes.
Okay, so it's a motion to continue on that basis. Does that make sense, Murray?
Yes.
Probably not the answer you wanted today,
Well,
but.
Yeah, not exactly. But, I mean, but it gives us some time to take
Right.
a look. I mean, and, you know, Councilor Zimmerman, there's certain things we can't control.
Like I said, that is not against you. That's, I hope you're hearing that. That's just a infrastructure conversation that we've got to have, I believe.
And if it's continued, I can take a month and work with our engineering department to see, I'm not making any promises, but just get more information, and then I'll have more information next month to
He's probably
share.
gonna say, Pete, put you up to talking to me. I already can see what Jason's gonna say, so that's okay.
So
Well, I didn't, you had nothing to do with that. It's on me.
you mentioned, so your concern is Georgia Road?
My concern is Georgia Road, and I think, now, correct me if I'm wrong, on other developments, we have worked to, I don't know how where the funding came, but we expanded some roads a little bit, given some buffer when we've had. I feel like that's happened in the past. Now, I could be wrong, but I feel like since 2015, I've been on the council, I feel like we've been involved in that a few times. So
Again, so some of the improvements have been done on some of there where they can be done, right? Remember, we're dealing with old farm roads.
I know, and
That's what you have, and a lot of these were counties until that was annexed in. So I think we just need an engineer's report, Megan, to come forward to give a crystal clear for the council on what is the plan to be done and the timing to be done, any improvements, widening, i.e., and also roundabout stuff or stop signs and anything else to mitigate that, left and right-hand turn lanes, et cetera, which
Yep,
Jason
we'll
has.
put together a memo.
So that's that, and Murray, I absolutely understand, has nothing to do with you and your development group. Okay, so that's an outside issue, we'll get that dealt with at council.
One other request, and if Councilor Dreamer has a copy of.
Here, take mine. You can
Okay, that'll be helpful.
Yes, we'll make sure we get that to you. So I have a motion to continue, and I had a second. All those in favor of continuing, say aye.
Aye.
Item is continued.
Aye.
Thank you, Bill. Is there anything else on the agenda tonight, Megan? We got one more? Okay, one more item. He closed his laptop, and I don't have the agenda in front of me. So that's no worry, Ross. Yeah. We're getting close. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Bill's on the phone, he would be 7, so I still remain at 6. I'm okay at 6. What is it? Oh, just like district code, this should be quick. Okay, go ahead, Ross, I'm sorry, yeah.
Good evening. For the record, Ross Hillary, City of Fishers Assistant Director for Planning and Zoning. For your consideration tonight, I'm presenting a text amendment, 22-36. This is an update to the various sections of the Nickel Plate District Code. I will try to be both brief and thorough. Nickel Plate District Code was codified by City Council back in 2014 and has been updated regularly. The code is our land use guide document for downtown. Currently, the Nickel Plate District Code does have 4 zoning districts. The downtown code core provides our main street and retail shops, You can see First Internet Bank is an example of the downtown core. The Municipal Center functions for all of our civic uses. This includes the Fishers Fire Station and the new City Hall under construction. The Highway Center is our gateway along I-69 and serves both as a community at large and provides us our essential goods. And the Village Center is our population core. South Village is an example of reinvestment in that area. As part of this update, the Nickel Plate District would be expanded to include the Northeast Commerce Park, which is a certified tech park. It's shown here. The tech park is home to Lunch Fishers, the Indiana IoT Lab, and multiple technology, co-working, and R&D businesses. This update also includes the rezoning of properties along Lantern Road, east 121st Street, and Circle Drive. Those will be rezoned from DC Village Center to DC Downtown Core. This map shows the 4 existing zoning districts and the proposed 5th zoning district, which is that DC Technology Center in purple. Other key updates to this text amendment includes a new development standard section for the Technology Center, a new building type called Technology Building, and the addition of 5 streetscapes. The Technology Center would join the 4 existing zoning districts and will be the innovation and collaboration hub for the district. This area provides a mix of employment uses, offices, R&D, component of light and flex industrial. All existing uses in that Northeast Commerce Park are continued to be allowed. Any uses that are non-conforming would be subject to our legal non-conforming standards. It's in the UDO, and that is unchanged from the existing PUD. This text amendment also includes a new building type called Technology Building. It's defined as an industrial flex building. Right here, you can see the Meyer Nature building is a good example of the architecture that we're expecting to see. The Fairway Home Mortgage building on the right is currently under construction. We actually used the Nickel Plate District Code when we were taking this project through, so you can see the type of architecture that we were expecting. City Council did hold a first reading at the April council meeting, and staff presented this text amendment as an item of information to the Nickel Plate Review Committee. Staff also held a virtual town hall on May 16th, and we invited all the businesses and property owners within the Northeast Commerce Park. It was attended by about 10 business owners. We didn't have any questions during that call. All public notices have been provided to the required property owners. Tonight is a public hearing, and we'll go before City Council later this month. In regards to Fishers 2040, the comprehensive plan calls for the Northeast Commerce Park area to develop as an employment and R&D area. And the area along Lantern Road calls for neighborhood mixed use, which allows for smaller scale mixed use developments with a focus on pedestrians. Staff is happy to answer any questions. Like I said, this does require a public hearing.
I'll open this for public hearing, see if anyone wants to come up and speak on this topic. Please come up and state your name and address for the record.
Always get all the homeowners out here first, right? Adam Suchko, 8950 Technology Drive. I'm right at that purple square on Commerce, on the TC zone or whatever. I am curious. I remember hearing that we were only going to allow new technology companies in, and they built a brand new real estate company across the street from me. Anybody have any ideas why that happened? I mean, that's what I was told.
We will address any questions after the public hearing's been closed.
Okay, all right. That's one of my concerns. The other one is we have extremely old 1986, grandfather things in place. Is there a contrast sheet of what we're going to have to accept versus what we have now? I mean, have you had a chance to look at our existing charters? No.
Again, your questions will be answered at the end of the public hearing.
Okay.
So.
Well, these are my concerns.
Okay.
I mean, they're real. We are a very high technology company, and we do like the fact that we're trying to move that way, like Lang Lab Labs and all that stuff. So I hope we can keep that going. That'd be nice. But I'm not too straight on the mortgage company. I'm glad they're here. I know they needed a space. If we one or the other, we're going to be tech or we're not going to be tech. And make your mind up. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on this topic? Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Megan, you want to address any of those comments?
Yeah, so for the new zoning under the technology center, it would allow for office and then also manufacturing. And Ross, maybe you can speak to more of the manufacturing side of things, but we wouldn't necessarily dictate between a technology office versus another kind of office. We more generally just categorize it as office space. So if it was a real estate office, we don't get that too into the detail. But then we're happy to share a breakdown of the uses that would be permitted under this new zoning district. I believe it would be all of what's permitted today.
That is correct. And this technology building that we're expecting to see, either built or is already there, the expectation would be for high-tech manufacturing, production, R&D, as we mentioned, innovation, entrepreneurship office, which is where that Fairway Mortgage would come in there. There's other offices in there that are also not technology-based. And then co-working space similar to Launch Fishers.
And then for the smells, we already have ordinances in place that's already a requirement, and so that would still be the intent for that not to be any pollution. That would. Okay. Yeah, we have buffer requirements on the edges of the nickel plate district, but we can look at that specifically for this one because it does include that technology manufacturing and add language in there to address that.
Okay, any other questions?
There were some questions too about CC&Rs. I believe the last time we did the text amendment, that was to help replace some of those, but I can do some additional research if there's other ones.
Okay.
I believe the PUD text amendment that we did a couple years ago was to replace those outdated CC&Rs, but he has other information. Happy to look at that.
Thanks, Ross. Any other questions from commission? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to send a favorable recommendation to City Council with some of the additional questions, especially around the odors and stuff and those businesses not being able to expand. And just getting that a little bit further defined possibly in there. I'd like to see that before it goes to council.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion, please state aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. What else do I have? What else do I have on this agenda? Any council updates, any?
All the council updates was first reading of all the items you saw tonight, so
Okay.
we will not rehash that.
So I have a motion to adjourn, so we are adjourned. Thank you.